Good morning, YouTube pipe smokers and, lest we not forget, cigar smokers. I've been thinking about doing this video for a while now, and basically the differences to me between pipes and cigars. You get a lot of those questions. I think a lot of people are curious. So that's what we're kind of going to cover today. I might still do a pipe tobacco review today or tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, and we'll still kind of continue with the English and the Balkan blends for at least probably another 2 or 3 weeks as things warm up here. Things are warming up here, which is nice. But let's kind of get into it. Let's just talk a little bit about what I think are some differences between pipes and cigars. Let's start with, I guess, physically a pipe, right? I mean, a pipe is a tool, right? It's a piece of art. It's a piece of craftsmanship, right? I mean, you can't smoke pipe tobacco without a pipe. Whereas a cigar, you just go pick one out, light it up, cut it, punch it, whatever you're going to do. And you're on your way. So obviously with that factor of having to physically go out and buy a pipe, it's, pipe is much more intimidating, I think, which is why I think most pipe smokers, come from a background of cigars and or cigarettes. And that was my background. Cigarettes, cigars, and then pipe. And I think most of us probably came through that, transition that way, as a general rule. The reality is, in my experience hanging out in cigar lounges and just talking to people in general with cigar smokers, I think it's safe to say this in my experience. Most pipe smokers are cigar smokers, but most cigar smokers are not pipe smokers. And I think you'll find that to be true. So there's a collection aspect too, right, that goes along with buying a pipe. And the learning of what goes into buying a pipe. You don't just show up at the shop and buy a pipe, right? So, like I said, a pipe is much more intimidating, and smoking a pipe versus a cigar is also drastically different, right? you know, you can, like I said, you just go get a cigar, you light it up, and you smoke it. It's what I call you light it and you leave it. It generally burns on its own. It can go up, but generally will burn on its own for an hour or 2 hours, however, depends on the size of the cigar. There's not a lot of work that goes into smoking a cigar, right? Pretty easy to keep lit. There's no tamping here. There's no relights here, generally speaking. I mean, if I put this down for 20 minutes, I might have to relight it. Not all the time, but generally speaking, there's no relights here. There's no tamping here. There's no prep really for a cigar. I mean, the prep is whether you like a punch or you want to cut the end off, right, with a cigar cutter, right? Just different ways to take the cap off, to get at your tobacco there to smoke properly, right? With a pipe, you've got, if it's a flake, if it's a coin, if it's a plug, I mean, you need a knife for a plug. Then you've got to rub it out. You might have, drying time. You got to air dry it for maybe 15, 20 minutes before you smoke it. Then you got to pack the pipe. And that's a ritual that a lot of people, quite frankly, are just not going to go through, right? Um, and over the years, I'll be the first, to admit myself, there are times where I'm pretty dedicated to the pipe nowadays, but there was times when I was younger where I just couldn't be bothered to pack up all the shit for the pipe, right? You need a case for the pipe, you need a case for the pouch, you need a case for the tools. You got to be careful. Usually I would pack ribbon cut tobacco because depending on where I was, I don't want to like cut up a plug or roll out a flake. There's way more prep that goes into it. It's easy to just grab a cigar, throw that in your shirt pocket, and go out the door. I'm smoking Thomas Hines House House Blend, Maduro, Churchill Churchill length, which is one of my favorites, and a black cup of coffee. There's nothing like a cigar in the morning. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here. I was up at about 7:30. There's just something about having a cigar and a nice dark cup of coffee on a spring day, particularly this summer. I love when it's warm outside. And I can hear the birds in the morning. I mean, a pipe is the same too. Don't get me wrong. But like I said, the prep, the preparation for a pipe. Speaking of preparation, there is a little bit with a cigar, not much, but so the pipe is a physical tool. You got to go out and buy it, right? I mean, a work of art, though, right? And you can collect pipes, and a lot of people do. You can collect cigars. That's less common, though. I mean, going to a cigar lounge, there's probably not a guys in there, girls, collecting cigars, right? That's kind of a little bit more for the cigar aficionados, somebody that's really spending a lot of money and a lot of time researching the types of cigars they want to go find and sell them for 20, 30 years and then maybe even sell them, flip them, right? But most of your average cigar smokers are not collecting them. Sticking on the concept of cigars just being a lot easier to smoke, um, I also find it easier to read or write with a cigar versus a pipe. I just ashed in my lap, which is something that doesn't happen with a pipe. So there's another thing. Make sure you ash your cigars in the ashtray, not on your pants. So hold on here. And for you cigar smokers out there, you know exactly what I mean. Make sure you don't do that in the cigar lounge when you got some nice clothes on. You look like you never smoked a pipe or a cigar in your life before. So that was a rookie mistake what I just did there, but that happens. So be careful. But like I was saying, I find it a lot easier when I'm reading or writing to have a cigar because I can put the cigar down and then just continue to write or continue to read. And I find smoking a pipe for me breaks my concentration if I'm writing or if I'm reading, right? Because I mean, you got to hold it first of all. And if you don't, if you're still clenching it, you still have to kind of be aware that if you're clenching something, you're trying to read or you're trying to write at the same time, you've got this thing sticking out of your mouth. If it goes out, you got to relight it, then you got to tamp it again. There's just too much interruption for me when I'm reading or when I'm writing. But the cigar, I can just put it down. I can read for 15 or 20 minutes and kind of get into it and not lose my train of thought. Or if I'm writing, get into a good groove and continue to write. And I can go back to my cigar 10, 15 minutes later still lit. And I can put it down again and kind of stay in the zone. I find it easier to stay in the zone. You know, another thing is you can light up a cigar, go cut the grass. You know, whether it's a riding lawnmower, push mower, whatever it is. I know you can do that with a pipe, and you know, there are a lot of guys out there that take a cheaper pipe and go cut the grass, go do some yard work. I still find that to be a lot of work. So the pipe needs much more attention than the cigar. All right, what else we got here in some of my notes? So the taste. I've said this before in previous videos, and I know cigar guys don't like this when I say it. When I'm at the cigar lounge, they kind of look at you funny because they don't smoke a pipe. You get a lot more flavor out of pipe tobacco than a cigar, generally speaking. There are cigars, some special cigars out there that can really give you some nuances and some different levels, layers of complexity. So they're out there. There are some really nice premium cigars out there, but they are much more expensive. And they are few and far between. Just as a general statement, if you picked up like a Virginia Perique, tin of tobacco, smoked that in your pipe, and then went and had something that would be comparable tobacco-wise in a cigar, the cigar is just going to taste flat. And if you don't believe me, go and get a nice premium cigar, not super high-end, but a nice premium cigar. And get yourself some pipe tobacco and just compare the two. And you're going to find most of the time that the cigar it's just more earthy and musty and doesn't have the complexity of layers of flavor that pipe tobacco does. So for me, there's much more taste in tobacco, pipe tobacco, than there is in cigars. And that's not a shot. I'm not saying that don't smoke cigars and smoke pipes because there's better flavor. They're just two different types of ways to taste tobacco. I love them both because I love tobacco. Cost is another thing that people bring up too. You know, you can get a tin of pipe tobacco for, let's say smoking pipes. Stick with with an American analogy here. 17 or 18 bucks for a nice tin of tobacco, 100-gram tin of tobacco, and you can get a nice cigar, for $10 to $15 US, and you're going to smoke that nice cigar, that premium cigar, and it's going to be gone in an hour, maybe an hour and a half. You're going to be able to have a lot more tobacco bowls in your pipe tobacco with a 50 gram or 100-gram tin. So you get a lot more smokes out of a pipe, and it's more flavorful than you do in a cigar. So keep that in mind. I mean, pipe tobacco has gone up quite a bit in the last few years, but it's, cigars go up in price too. So, I mean, one is never going to catch the other. I imagine pipe tobacco is typically going to be cheaper even 10 to 15 years from now. But your money's going to go a little bit further in pipe tobacco than it will in a cigar. Especially for us up here in Canada, where premium cigar, you got to kind of come in at that $25 to $30 range. A box of cigars for us is anywhere from like $400 to $600. So not an easy hobby nowadays to get into. I mean, I was buying boxes of cigars 20 plus years ago, but they were $300 or $250, not $500. So keep that in mind as well when up here in Canada. much more economical to smoke a pipe and enjoy pipe tobacco than cigar smoking. But I don't want to deter people. You know, you can still go to a cigar lounge, get nice, you know, you can, you know, for $100 you can get a few nice cigars and enjoy yourself. I smoke 1 to 2 cigars a week, usually on weekends, either in the mornings like I am now, or at night on a hot summer's night with a cold beer. Just come sit in the garage and enjoy myself. I'll just kind of wrap this up by, you know, I guess asking the question, right? Why do more people smoke cigars than pipes? Well, I think a lot of it is what I just said, right? The preparation of a pipe and having to go out and buy one, and then what do you buy? And then there's all these weird different types of tobaccos. There's plugs, there's flakes, there's cakes. Like it's intimidating, right? You really have to want to smoke a pipe to get into it. And I hope I'm not deterring people that are interested, you know, any cigar smokers that are watching this, from getting into pipe smoking. You know, those things that I mentioned, you know, the difficulty in selecting the pipe and selecting the tobacco, and then how to prep the different types and different cuts of tobacco. That's part of the fun, right? It's collecting the different types of pipes, whether they're factory pipes or artisan pipes. You can commission your own pipe. How cool is that, right? It's a work of art. You can kind of go and ask somebody to make you a certain type of pipe. I mean, that's super cool. You know, try to tell somebody to go make you a certain flavor of cigar. I mean, just, you know, I realize it's tobacco, not, but you get the point. You can personalize pipe smoking, which is really, really cool. And I love that aspect of pipe smoking. You know, so there is that more of a ritual to smoking a pipe that, you know, in this day and age where people, you know, everyone seems to be flying by the seat of their pants these days. Everybody's in a rush, you know what I mean? It's nice to just slow down and learn to do something that's going to require a little bit more time. It teaches you a little bit more patience, and it's rewarding. But I get it. You know, it's a little bit more time consuming to kind of learn all these things, but I like that. The other thing, the other reason I think there's not as many pipe smokers around today is culturally there's just not a lot of people smoking pipes. You know, you don't really see that in the media anymore. I mean, despite the anti-tobacco campaigns of the last, you know, 20 to 30 years, right? You still see a lot of celebrities smoking cigars, right? Jerry Seinfeld smokes cigars. Bill Burr smokes cigars. You know, Schwarzenegger's still puffing away. You know, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, right? So you still see it. You know, Kid Rock, I think, smokes cigars. So you still see it on YouTube, on television, right? In the movies. There's just still people smoking cigars. So culturally, I think cigar smoking is still with us. Thank God for that. And you know, that can be a gateway into wanting to learn more about cigar smoking, tobacco in general, and maybe a bridge into learning to smoke a pipe. And the differences, like I've noted, between the two, why they're different, you know, and why they're kind of two different hobbies, but to me, both still deeply enjoyable. So, I guess that's really about it. Just sort of wanted to touch on that. I'm gonna finish my cigar and my coffee here, and birds are starting to come out. You probably can't hear them because I don't have the door open while the screen. Hope you enjoyed that. Any comments or anything, any major things you think I missed between the two? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, that's about it. I guess I shouldn't sign out Prairie Piper, but maybe Prairie Pipe and Cigar Prairie Piper guy. Anyways, you guys enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.